Welcome back from the rest hold, everybody. It's time for us to get into our main event for this episode, which is going to be the 18th edition of Superstar Scores. And our target for this one is going to be Cody Rhodes, based off of the fact that he just left the company, and we didn't get a chance to do this, last week or the week before, whatever the case may be. But it's still fresh in our minds, so we're going to talk about the son of a plumber and rank him on a 0 to 100 scale on 5 different categories that have 2 different categories, subcategories underneath them. They are ring skills, mic skills, appearance, behavior, and crowd reaction. The point of this is to get as close to a 10 as possible. Perfect 100 is, the best possible score. 0 is, of course, the worst. And we're going to start off with the ring skills section. That is athleticism and psychology. Athleticism is basically their move set, their finisher, whether or not they botch, that kind of thing. And psychology is their storytelling capabilities, and whether you buy that they can actually win, or if they're keeping a match interesting and not boring, selling their injuries, that kind of stuff like that. I'm going to start off with Peyton on this. Peyton, what do you get Cody Rhodes for ring skills?
For ring skills, he's good. He's not great. I think he still has a lot of molding to do. I went with 7s on both. 7 for athleticism, 7 for psychology. He's a guy who showed himself able to have good stamina, good acrobatic abilities. But again, nothing truly amazing. Just a higher end of good. And same for psychology. He hasn't gone out there and had like a Donnybrook Broadway type match. He's just gone out there and had a lot of basic mid-card matches. He knows how to tell a basic story, but we're yet to see anything truly miraculous yet. So again, 7s all around.
I actually gave him a 7 for both as well, in the same kind of capacity. I like what he did in the ring. I don't remember a single match where I was just like, oh, damn, that was so just Cody fucking up. The first match I can think of with a fuck up is that Cody and Goldust thing. And I think that was like that they cut the time and they told them to do that story and whatever. I don't blame that necessarily on those two, because they had good shit before that. And I like the Crossroads. I like the Beautiful Disaster kick. But at the same time, I can't really say that he's Shawn Michaels either. So, 7s for me too. Wago, what do you got for ring skills?
7 for both of them as well. So it looks like if Drew says it too, it'll be unanimous decision. That show ain't coming back.
Good.
So for athleticism, yeah, it's like he's never done anything too flashy. He can't do a lot of the flippy bullshit and amazing stunts other people do, but he's gifted enough to move around well. Psychology-wise, best match I've seen him have was that tag match with the Shield. But he's not had one of those matches where your draws are on the ground. So that's what I got.
All right, Drew, what do you think? We got 7s for everybody, it seems.
I got a 7 for his technical ability, but for athleticism, I gave him an 8. And the main reason why I gave him an 8, that moonsault off the top of the cage was pretty fucking awesome. And it's a damn shame that they gave, like, stun of the year or whatever it was to Chris Jericho's, like, frostbody off the top. Like you guys said, he's not the most athletic guy, but he can still do some pretty damn good things. So I'm going to go with the 8 and the 7.
So he's getting good scores right here. Let's see if he can kind of keep this going on here with the mic skills. Those are charisma and character. Charisma is their basic mic skills. Do they cut a promo without stuttering, and do they keep things fresh and interesting? And their character, that's more their gimmick. And, whether or not they can play a heel and a face, or if they only have one character that they can really pull off, that kind of stuff. I'm going a 6 and a 7. 7 for character, 6 for charisma, because when I was thinking about it, Cody struggled quite a bit on the mic, and he improved, but he really never could quite pull it out 100%. Better than some people on the roster, not quite as good as some others. 7, though, for the character. I might end up actually bumping that up. It depends on what you guys say here, but I was thinking back on a couple different gimmicks he's had. The clean-cut babyface thing, you can't really do much with that. Dashing gimmick, that was pretty interesting. Then he took that in an even better way with the whole deformity thing, and he's got the Stardust character, he had the legacy thing, so he's had a wide variety, but I kind of hated the Stardust character for the majority of it.
You are such a fucking hater.
Yeah, it got on my nerves, so I had to kind of dock him a little bit for Stardust at the same time as award him a little bit for it. And my favorite Cody Rhodes was when he was feuding with Big Show, that Intercontinental title reign that he had. I thought that he was a good heel with that. So I'm going 6 and 7. Wago, I'll go with you first on this one. What do you think about his mic skills?
So for his mic skills, for charisma, I gave him a 7. I thought he was always like at the start of his career, it was a bit bumpy, but he got up to a point where he could cut a solid promo, and it kind of works into his character where I gave him an 8 because dude's like had a constant evolution, and I think that's one of the biggest flaws on a lot of people is that their characters never evolve. They stay the same for so long. But Cody, he went from being just some generic guy to all the things that we've seen. And personally, I thought his dashing gimmick, he knocked it out of the park. The disformity gimmick, he probably the best character he's done. And I like Stardust. I just think they didn't utilize him properly. It's a character that you have to do something with, or it's just another guy on the roster.
Peyton, what about you?
This is a guy who has been through a number of character shifts and has pretty much nailed every single one of them. So for character, I have to give him an 8, just because he hasn't had anything that's truly flourished. But everything he's been given, he's done fantastic with. And for charisma, I give him another 7. Again, way above average. I can think back to a lot of times when he was really on the when he was doing the deformed gimmick and he was running down how everyone else was ugly and passing out the bags to everybody. I thought that's where we really saw his character and ability to cut a promo shine there. And even all the way up to today, like the backstage things when he was in his own little space back there in the stars and talking all cryptic, it was like the modern day Ultimate Warrior promo. It was pretty cool to see.
Not doing bad on this one either. What do you think, Drew?
For his character, I gave him an 8, and the main reason why I did is just because everything he, like everyone said, he knocked out of the park. Stardust was my favorite character for a long time, and that's mainly because there is no one who is more into their gimmick than Cody Rhodes was with Stardust. He went out there and busted his ass every single time with that character, and I think it would have worked if they actually did something with him, even towards the tail end of when he was in WWE, when they were like teetering the Cody Rhodes, he's not really Cody Rhodes thing. Even if there was one person in the crowd saying anything about it, he still played it, and it would work most of the time. And for his charisma, I gave him a 7 just because he never got a chance to really show off the character in a lot of ways up until the Stardust thing where he had his own backstage segments, but nothing that was really stuck out. But I don't remember a time where it was really anything too bad. So a 7 and 8.
You guys convinced me. I'm going to bump him up to an 8 on character.
Woo!
An extra point. Now we got appearance. Physique is pretty self-explanatory. Body. That's what it means. Entrance is a little bit more confusing, but it incorporates all the things from their music, the pyro, the actions that they do, everything that can go into an entrance. And of course, this is for any entrance that they've had, the wide variety of them. Undertaker's pretty much had 2 entrances in his career, but you say what your favorites are, your least favorites are, that kind of stuff. It's all, overall. Physique, I think we could end up possibly being on the same page here, but I think that we're actually going to end up having a wide range. I'm going 6. And I think I might be a little bit harsh, but I don't know. That's going to kind of depend, too. I look at a guy like Cody Rhodes, and I think he's got a great body, but if you're comparing him to some other people, I'm not going to believe that he's going to win in a fight. Like, if he were a little bit more muscular and a little bit taller, I'd bump him up a lot more, and I think he actually would have gotten a world title reign if that would have been the case. But I can see if somebody like Vince was critical of him. I don't know about that. Actually, let's stay to physique, because entrance is quite a bit different. Let's bounce around when it comes to this. Drew, what do you think about Cody's physique? What did you give him?
I was going to give him a 9 when we were talking about this before we did the podcast, and I bumped it down to an 8 right now, but that's mainly because I was thinking he is in perfect shape for the most part for his body size, perfect muscular. He looks great. But I was thinking like that 9 and 10 area is like reserved for Triple H, The Rock, John Cena, and I couldn't think I could put Cody Rhodes on that level. but the guy it looks fucking amazing still. It's just that he's not that big, but there's nothing wrong with that. And you said that he doesn't look like he could kick some of these guys' ass, which is true, but he has that wrestling background of amateur style. I think he could totally beat a lot of guys' ass if he just walked into a bar. So I'm gonna give him an 8 for physique.
Yeah, see, when you talk about gimmick-wise, that's where it gets a little tough, because, like, a Mark Henry is obviously not, like, you know, a clean-cut model type of guy, but you can believe him kicking someone's ass. But he also wrestles a completely different style from somebody like Callisto. And then you can't judge them basically the same, and so that's, I mean, there's a lot of room to figure something out here. Peyton, what do you think with Cody's physique? Is it something we should bump him up more, or should we kind of look at him as like a scrawny type of guy?
No, I mean, you got to look at this. This is a whole scale of 1 through 10. And if you're looking at it as that, you can't put him too high. He was a smaller dude. He was trimmed. He was cut, but he was smaller. You know, he never had really buff muscles. He never had a perfect body. His face was fine, but he also kind of had that weird thing on his face that his daddy had. So it's, for me, I keep him at a 6.
Wago, what do you got?
So I have him at a 6 too, and I don't see how Drew can put him so high. At the end of the day, when it comes to physique, it's basically, does Vince look at you and his jaw drop? And that's not the case with Cody Rhodes. When he broke into the WWE, the guy looked like he couldn't fit his fucking trunks. Now, as he got older, he started to beef out a little more, but he never really got to that point where he was remotely imposing. Add that with a history of dorky haircuts and his stupid face, I can't give him any more than 6.
I'm gonna change mine to a 6 as well. I guess I was looking at it a little differently, so yeah, I'm gonna go with a 6 as well.
You know what's a big step up for him that he did eventually? Knee pads.
Oh
He
yeah,
looked
that
so-
went against him majorly too. I never even thought about that.
He looked so weird when he just had the bare legs. That showed like the scrawniness, kind of. Of course, he's bigger than I am. He'd kick my ass in a second, but you know, that's not what we're arguing here. If I even did Superstar Scores me, it'd be real fucking low.
I don't know. Anton Mango looks pretty badass.
Yeah, that's true. Entrance. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting because we have a weird set when it comes to his entrances. He had real basic things, and then he had crazy shit. And I might bump him up a little bit here, but I'm giving him a 7. I liked the paper bags with the, he's handing them out to the crowd when he's wearing the mask and all that. And I liked the mirror, but it was a little bit annoying too. And Stardust was interesting. So a 7, I'm leaning maybe towards an 8. Peyton, what do you got?
Nah, I never really liked any of his entrances. At most, I might have liked some small production elements of it, like you said, the mirror or maybe a certain camera angle they were using. But besides that, his entrances were mostly boring. Especially you go back to like his first one where it was literally just him walking down, gets in the ring, puts his arm in the air. My arm's in the air. Yeah, he never really just had a great entrance. So I'm giving him a 5, middle of the road.
Wago, what do you got?
So I have him at a 7. I liked his theme music. I liked the variety of his different theme musics. Smoke and Mirrors had a couple of different versions. I also liked his entrance that he had going with Road Scholars, where they combined the two. I thought that was pretty cool. So overall, a 7 I think is fair. He's had the cool little features with the mirror. The Stardust entrance I kind of dug too, so I think 7's fair.
2 7s and a 5. You gonna go with a 6 and be in the middle ground, Drew?
I was thinking about giving him a 3 because he had no pyro, but I thought about it some more. And I do like Smoke and Mirrors. I do like the updated version of that. The disfigured Cody Rhodes theme is actually my favorite. And yeah, he might have not done too much when it comes to creating a cool thing for Cody when he does like the walk down stuff, but the Stardust, just his entrance with that, where he's just pretty much crazy and he gets on the barricade and stuff, I thought it was interesting. I might have not been a big fan of the Stardust music, but I will give him credit. It kind of like with his character, the music and the way he gets down to the ring evolved over time. So I'm going to give him a 7.
It brings us to behavior, which is backstage professionalism, the locker room situations that they're in, the politics, whether they put people over or they complain incessantly. and the public relations, the outside image that they project onto the company. That's factoring in their arrest record, their charity work, their talk show ability, all that other kind of stuff. I gave him an 8 for both because I look at it this way. If he just now cracked after all this shit that it seems like he's put up with, and I don't remember him being a problem, dude needs credit, because he went through a lot of crap. Just wanting to get rid of the Stardust character and then not letting him do that, and him losing to so many people and being on the low end of the card and never really getting that big push that I think that he was entitled to. Some other people might disagree, but that is something that he was in the company for 9 years, and he did reach a point maybe 3 years ago or so where I was just like, they could push this guy. And instead, he's jobbing out on pre-shows, and he's wrestling predominantly on Superstars and whatever. So I got to give him credit for putting up with that for as long as he did. And public relations, dude's doing reading conventions and stuff like that as Stardust, working with little kids and shit. Never got arrested as far as I can remember. He's got the comic book conventions that he went to, so he tried to tap into that side of the culture. I think that he did a pretty good job, all things considered. I'm giving him pretty high marks with 2 8s here. Drew, what do you got for behavior?
At first, I didn't know how I was going to grade this because of what he said after he left the company. And the main thing, if you read that big, long thing he posted on his Twitter, was at some point he mentions how one of the head writers were, instead of listening to him, he was flirting with the divas on the roster, which I was like, oh, God. He's going to get this. This is going to fuck him in some way down the road. But I'm going to just look at this of when he was in the company, and for just the backstage stuff of this, you hear nothing wrong with him. And from what you see, a lot of people appreciated his time there. So I'm going to give him an 8. And for the public image, I'm going to give him a 9, just because, like you said, he went to conventions and stuff as Stardust. He did a lot of like the talk show and stuff, and he did a lot of charity work. He's not a John Cena, but he wasn't supposed to be a John Cena. And I think to start going to stuff as Stardust is pretty badass. So I'm going to give him a 9.
Wego?
So Professionalism, I ended up giving him a 9. And the only reason I knocked him any points is because of the way he went out. I wouldn't have even knocked him anything for the letter he wrote if he wasn't naming certain writers and shitting on them. There's a way you leave, and that ideally isn't the way to do it. I don't disagree with what he said. I'm just talking from a business standpoint. But take a look at him. I mean, this is a kid that was in one of the most, biggest professional wrestling families. Jesus, fuck you. So he could have came in as this cocky young brat that rubbed everybody the wrong way and never made it anywhere. Randy Orton. But Orton actually ended up doing something. So yeah, I think a 9's fair because everybody's talks positively about him. As far as public relations go, I ended up giving him a 10. I've never heard of him doing anything bad. He works with kids. He had the whole thing with Stephen Amell, and he did a lot of press for it. So really high marks here.
I'm starting to think I might be moving him up to a 9 and 9. Peyton, you think I should go along with that? You give him a high score too?
I also gave him a 9 for professionalism. Wago actually hit the best point you could have about it, is the fact that he's one of these guys who came in from a wrestling family and didn't just have everything handed to him. You say Randy Orton, I also look at like Charlotte to be a more contemporary example. I don't know if maybe Dusty wanted to be harder on him, and maybe that's why he took the longer route, but he got put into legacy. But, so did Sim Snuka and Manu, and that didn't work out too well for them very long.
Manure.
So he still worked his butt off, went himself up from the lowest part of the card all the way up. So I have a lot of respect from that. So a 9 for professionalism. And for PR, I'm also going to give him a 9, especially for how much he stuck to that character when he was doing other things with the comic appearances. And he had that joint shirt with Stephen Amell to raise money for charity.
Oh, yeah.
He made his own shirt with another huge star specifically just to benefit charity. So how could you not love this guy? I'm really tempted to give him a 10. I just feel like 10 is reserved for someone like a John Cena. So I got to give him a 9.
Yeah, I was kind of on the same boat, but I'm like, Cena gets more credit for it because he's a bigger name, but they probably do the amount of same shit.
And just not as much press about it.
Mm-hmm. Could be. But
you
again, I'm going by what I know.
You hear you've heard CM Punk, so take it with a grain of salt. Bitch about people not getting credit for doing all the same stuff as Cena does. So yeah, that's why I ended up giving him a 10. But I can see the argument.
I think the thing is between him and Cena is not as many kids are asking for Stardust for Make-A-Wish stuff. So I think people. So that's maybe why we don't hear about it as much. But I'm actually kind of tempted to move him up to a 10 because you guys have brought up some very good points on that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm bumping him up at least 9 and 9. So I'm happy because I wanted to give him a higher score than what I originally gave him, and now it looks like I am. Our final section here, though, is crowd reaction, which is popularity and credibility. The popularity is based off of the, more standardized crowd reaction, the cheers and the boos, his followers on Twitter, their ratings, if you can kind of measure that, the merchandise, that kind of thing. Credibility is more on the lines of their kayfabe sense. Can you buy this guy being a Hall of Famer and a multi-time world champion, or is he like a Colin Delaney type? And this is where I gave him the lowest marks out of everything. And again, I'm hoping I can bump him up if you guys can convince me. But popularity, gave him a 5. And it kind of hurt me to do that. But I was like, I don't really remember a time where he was much more popular than maybe like a 7 would be. And then if I look at his overall career, he spent a lot of time where he was just, being pushed aside and all that. So that hurt his credibility too, which I gave him a 6. This is more so WWE not giving him the proper treatment and the fans going, well, it's the Ryback thing. If you don't make me want to give a shit about him, then I don't as much as I should. And there were times where he was higher up, but there were also times where he was real fucking low. So a 5 and a 6 for me. Hopefully I can bump him up. Way to go. I'm going to start off with you. Do you think I should be higher up? What do you got him?
Not by much. I ended up doing a 6 for both. The thing is with Cody, and I had to look back, it was kind of a weird dynamic. I kind of had to look back at some of the people that I'd done before and where I'd ranked their popularity just so I could kind of establish my pecking order. And he was by no means any more popular or less popular than Ryback was at his peak. So, yeah, I had to give him a 6 for popularity. He's more over than the average Joe, but he's not like some major superstar. Credibility-wise, again, it's just they gave him the IC title run, they've gave him a meaningless tag run, but they've never gone ahead and put any real commitment into him for the long run, so I can't give him anything more than just slightly above average.
Yeah, I mean, I gave Ryback a 7 on popularity, and that dude was over as fuck. And I don't remember that time period when it came to Cody. But, Peyton, what do you got for crowd reaction?
For popularity, I gave him a 6. He is just above average, I would say. People tend to have always liked him. He's not someone that got like an X-Pac heat type reaction. But he also has never been massively popular, but what I do think is neat is that he has much more buzz around him after his release than I think anyone has in quite some time. People are very intrigued by that list that he posted, which he is starting work on with his first match against Kurt Angle near me, which I am super excited for. I must get to this event. So that is one thing that's going in his favor, and I think that's where we're going to see the true score that he should get for this, because it's kind of hard to judge right now. I want to see how he does after WWE. And that's where I could really give him a proper score for this. For now, though, I'm going to keep him at a 6. And I have the same score for credibility as well, because if we're just going off his WWE tenure, they never put him too high. I mean, the best he probably had was when he was fighting DX. That was probably the highest he ever was. So I'll also give him a 6 for that.
Drew, round us out. What do you got here?
For popularity, I wanted to give him a 7, but I have to give him a 6. And when his most popular was in that time in 2013 where Sandow turned on him, and him and Goldust got fired, and they had that big match with the Shield. That's when he was at his most popular, and then they went off to the Stardust, and I gave Ryback like a 7 or 8 or something like that. I couldn't give it to Cody because even that was more of the situation of yay, where the Authority got fucked over in the end, yay. So I had to give him a 6 for that. And you mentioned that It's been a while since we've had someone who got fired or just went away from the company and this mystique about him. The last person I could think of was CM Punk, and yeah, but well, we know what he's doing now. But I think with Cody Rhodes, we actually get to see him do something, unlike Punk, who just talks about doing something and never does it. So I'm gonna give him a 6 for that, and for credibility, I think I'm gonna give him a 7, and I'm gonna give him a 7 because he did have a handful of title reigns and he did have places on the card. He did have a celebrity match with Stephen Amell. They unveiled the new Intercontinental Championship with him. I think he did good things with about the first time he had it. He had meaningful feuds with that. He fought Booker T, did stuff with the Big Show. He did meaningful things with that. And with the tag teams, I mean, with Goldust the first time, then the second time at Stardust. I mean, shit, we forget that he had a tag team run with Bob Core Holly at one point. And that really should mean something in the end on this Superstar Scores especially. So it has to be a 7 just for that tag team with Bob Core Holly.
Well, my final score ended up being a 70, which is exactly the same as what I ended up giving Ryback. And, you know, looking at the people that we've had in the past, not bad at all. A lot of people in the 70 range. Kind of wish I could give them like a 75, but WWE sort of, you know, killed a little bit when it comes to that. So I blame partially a couple points on WWE's booking of him and some things on his own, but 70's not bad at all. Drew, what was your final score?
My final score ended up being 74. But that's mainly because I was a lot nicer when it comes to his entrance than anything else.
Wego, you were saying before that you were surprised at how high of a score he ended up getting from you overall. What was that final tally?
I thought he'd actually play lower than this, but he got 73 with me. So it's not bad at all.
Not bad, not bad. Peyton, everybody's been a little bit higher than me so far. Are you following the trend?
Nope, I'm at an even 70 as well, which puts him equal to me with Shane McMahon and just narrowly ahead of Chris Jericho and narrowly below Roddy Piper. That's not a bad spot to be.
Yeah, he's 5 points ahead of Shane right now for me, which Shane did a higher score than I thought that he would have eventually too. Our average, for those wondering, is a 71.75. So again, good score for Cody Rhodes, a guy who really just didn't quite get as good of a reputation as he should have in WWE. And hopefully this match with Kurt Angle is going to, you know, turn some heads and he's going to eventually come back, maybe, or find some success elsewhere, you know, whatever the case may be. But make sure, if you're listening to this, that you leave your comments below and tell us what your score is for Cody Rhodes. Did he rank higher or lower than what we were given, or is he around that 70 range as well? We have one more thing left to do for this episode, which is in part 5, the Fantasy League.